درود بر شما و بینندگان عزیز هر جایی که هستند. سپاسگزارم از تلویزیون ایرانیان کانادا که این فرصت رو در اختیار من گذاشتن و از جناب مهندس فرزاد سپاسگزارم که منو یاری میده، کمک میکنن برای بهبود این برنامه و مدیریت دوربین. I'm very privileged to have a special guest today, a guest that is in my heart, and this is really a pleasure to introduce to you as a viewer Nazanin Afshin Jam, my daughter, that I wanted to bring her to this program for some times, but she's been very busy. Now I will ask her to say a few words about that. But Nazanin, thanks for coming and welcome, bienvenue, خوش آمدید.
درود بابا، مرسی که منو دعوت کردین. I'm very happy to be here. It's a little bit strange having your father interview you because you know my life story, but regardless, I'm pleased, and I'm also happy you made the point that you're my father, because I've had a lot of people say, you know, I've met your brother and he's doing a wonderful job. And so I'm glad you clarified that.
Yes, actually, yesterday I had a call and saying that I met your sister, and I said, "Oh, okay." In California, I said, "No." Anyways, it's very pleasure. Thank you for coming. I know how busy you are, and I think you have to be very comfortable. I try to speak Farsi and English for people that they may not very fluent in English, but so you feel comfortable however you want to answer, or middle of your conversation you bring some phrases that surprise viewers. Nazanin, there are some, I mean, you are very popular, familiar. I mean, people are familiar with you, with your face and what you have done. However, there are some that they may not know you very well. I would like you to talk about yourself, though we have very limited time, so make it very precise, however you want. It's up to you. Go ahead. This is your screen.
Well, I was born in Iran at the start of the 1979 revolution, and we were forced as a family to escape Iran after, Baba, you were imprisoned and tortured by the Revolutionary Guards there. So we immigrated to Canada when I was 2 years old, and we've been living there ever since. We've been living in different parts of Canada, and I became a human rights activist. I focused a lot of my attention on children, particularly those that were being sentenced to death by execution in Iran. I documented with my co-founder and group more than 160 children on death row. And we were successful in some cases, and in other cases we were not. In those last times when I saw that some children were not saved, it really shook me and jarred me and made me start questioning whether I should continue in that line or whether we should address something bigger. And I did come to that conclusion that we can't keep putting band-aids on the solution. Yes, it's very important to save individuals, but there's no reforming the Islamic Republic. There's no reforming this regime. And to really help save lives in Iran means that we have to get to the root of the problem, which is toppling the regime and establishing a free secular democratic Iran with a constitution based on human rights and a separation of religion and state. So kind of in the latter part of my activities, I was starting to concentrate more on the democracy front.
Yes, just for the viewers' interest, we have some. I have selected, I should say, some photos and a few videos, and randomly I'll show them to the viewers, and you may want to quickly make a note for viewers to see what's all about. Do you want to say something about this?
That's the first time I ever met my husband. At the time, he was Foreign Affairs Minister, and I was talking about child executions and just generally the human rights abuses taking place in Iran. And he was actually one of the only politicians that actually took action and was responsible, I think, for saving lives. So I gained great respect for him, and we kept in touch. And anyways, we ended up getting married.
Right. All right. Now we'll go back. Okay, we'll show this one, and then I'll go to my question. This is, of course, is Dalai Lama, and I see that you have written down there human rights for Iran. How long ago was this, Nazanin?
Oh, this was probably approximately 15 years ago. He's holding a sign that says "Freedom for Iran." I was basically he was sympathizing with the fact that our people were being oppressed. Of course, the Tibetans and under the Chinese Communist Party are being repressed, and Iranians are being repressed by their own government. So in an act of solidarity, he agreed to hold these signs.
Right. No, I just asked for the date. Just wanted to show to our viewers that this goes back to about 15 years ago. That, of course, there are sooner than that, that you were working there. Now, you touched on the interest about Iran. What else interests you that you are, aside from your Iranian Canadian now, what else interests you? I know human rights is your forte, I should say, but what else it makes you to move, to inspire you?
Well, it is really just that. Whenever I see any kind of injustice, that's what moves me. That's what pushes me. So, I mean, specifically for Iran, I think I started helping Iranians when the BAM earthquake happened. And we raised money for the victims. But that's when I also learned about the dark side, the mismanagement, the corruption in Iran, and that how some of that money was being put into the pockets of regime officials, the IRGC. And it really made me look at Iran in a different way. And I think that was kind of the seed. Well, actually, probably the seed was seeing the scars on your back for the first time was what planted the seed. But it was an evolution of different things that pushed me to focus on Iran and its human rights abuses. I mean, of course, I've done other things as well, animal rights and human rights and justice for other countries. But my heart keeps bringing me back to the Iranian people because I have a great belief that they can actually change the system and bring freedom to themselves.
I'd like to show a few more photos, and you can sort of explain or describe what it is. Okay, what is this one?
The Governor General of Canada. Yes, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of influential people in the world, and any opportunity that I had to speak about, Iran's plight, I would take the opportunity. Of course, that's the Prime Minister of Canada in the last federal government.
Right.
This is King Charles. At the time, he was Prince Charles. And once again, I would take the opportunity to tell him about the egregious human rights abuses taking place in Iran. this is the High Commission of Human Rights at the United Nations. And again, talking about child executions, of course, everybody knows Nobel Peace Laureate Shirin Ebadi. We had the pleasure of meeting a few times. She's also a Nobel Peace Laureate, Johnson Sirleaf, and I was on David Frost's program. I was on a lot of media. That's John McCain, rest his soul, at the Halifax Security Forum, and again, the new Governor General of Canada.
I see. Well, you have quite a number of photos with the King Philip.
No, that's King Charles. But no,
King
I only
Charles.
met him on 2 occasions.
Yeah, what I'm saying
This
that we used to call him Prince Charles. Now we can't turn our tongue to call him King Charles.
Yes.
So this was in Halifax, was it?
This one, yes. This was just a celebratory occasion. He came to Pictou County, the rural area where my husband is from. So this time it was more of a celebratory event.
Right. Was there any comments about those photos that we just passed very fast? Did you want to make any notes or any keynote about those photos that we just passed, or for the viewers to get the gist of it?
No, I think we've covered it. I think just I've had the pleasure and honor of meeting a lot of individuals from many different walks of life and from different political leanings. I've always been pretty nonpartisan and not part of any established group per se. So, and that includes in the Iranian diaspora. This doesn't just pertain to those on the outside.
Right. The couple of those photos that David Frost, I saw David Frost there. He was very famous interviewer. I think he interviewed King Mohammad Reza Shah, I think, if I'm not making a mistake. That he was very sort of a celebrity type of reporter. And also there was another photo which I saw. He was also controversial. I think he passed away. John, help me there. John
McCain.
John McCain. He was very controversial, and he was I think if I say that he was saying that bomb.
Yeah, and actually I brought that up with him. I said he is a good friend of my husband's, or was, and I did mention to him that was the greatest mistake he made with our community, is by saying those words. But he reassured me that it was out of context. It really was a joke. Of course, it was done in poor taste, but he really did have the ear of our concerns as a community. And anyways, it's unfortunate that those 3 words has left that legacy with him among us Iranians.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you brought it up, because in that time they were talking about it, and I think in 1 or 2 occasions some people commented about you have encountered with him before, and now I'm glad that you brought it up. I think I met him too once, and he was very good man. I mean, let's put it that way. He was very kind man.
Yes, he's a war hero as well. We cannot forget his sacrifice.
Right. Nazanin, you had recently an article in National Post that was put on the front page and also inside. There were double page there, and it has a lot of viewers. I also kept a copy myself here with me, Tell me, what was it? I read it a couple of times, and tell the viewers about what did you say that it made it to the front page of the National Post?
Well, I mean, I really just spilled everything in my heart that I was feeling. That was maybe a few weeks into this revolution. And at that time, people were still calling it protests. But what I really want to emphasize was that this was different than something that we've ever seen inside Iran. And I recognize that this time it is a revolution. So I think those words shook the people in the editing room that, maybe she has a point, and they took the risk to put that on the front page. I basically just summarized everything that was taking place in Iran at that time, and I put some emphasis on certain individuals, some certain teenagers that were killed by suppression forces in Iran. And I think that's what made the difference. And that was when we had first heard the song of Shervin Hajipur, and I had said in my article that he basically encapsulated everything in one song that Iranians were feeling, of why they were out there protesting. 43 years of repression that they were feeling spilling out onto the streets.
Right. So did you get some feedback about this, and if those feedbacks were tuned with your thought that you have written this article?
I got very positive feedback. I'm sure there were negative feedback. I didn't receive those personally. I don't know. The only negative comments I think I heard were from bigoted people maybe living in Canada that had read the article saying that this is not our issue. So I'm hoping maybe I could follow up that article with reasons why really it is our issue. And in that article, I think I did mention the fact that this is a security risk for everybody. I mean, the fact of having this regime stay in power is an absolute security risk for Canadians and everybody in the world. If this regime obtains nuclear capabilities, then it will be that much harder to bring down this regime. And of course, not to mention funding of proxy terrorist groups throughout the Middle East, and what kind of repercussion there is there, and how many lives we could save, and how much more peace and stability we would have in that region and around the world if this regime would cease to exist.
Yeah, you brought a very good point there. The Middle East, especially the neighboring countries, they are in turmoil just because of the Islamic Republic of Iran's expansionism. So it's I'm glad you brought it up, and I believe through my studies and my daily work that I do, I believe I think the Islamic Republic will collapse. For sure, it will collapse. As you brought it up, it is a revolution, though maybe it's going slowly, but it is going very steady. When they collapse, I think the entire of the region, the Middle East region, will be calm and will be harmonized with each other. So I think you are absolutely right.
Well, definitely, the relations with Israel will improve once again. They were friends before the revolution. Once again, after the revolution, I believe they'll be friends. If this regime ceases to exist, again, there's the element of them sending weapons and training to Russian forces against peaceful Ukrainians. I think this latest has stepped up some European politicians to take a closer look at what's happening in Iran. So yes, definitely there'll be more harmony. There will be still problems in the Middle East for some time, I believe, but I believe this women-led revolution that we're seeing in Iran will have a domino effect on neighboring countries. I mean, I've already seen protests starting to happen in Afghanistan under their brutal Taliban. So I see Iran could be a real role model for other revolutions to come.
Right. Nazanin, I had this question to ask you. Some people, they may ask, you've been absent for some times. Not that you were not involved in things, because knowing you, I'm just, the question is basically is for the viewers. So I just wanted to explain, knowing that you were working on the back scene or something, explain to the viewers where were you and what were you doing?
Right. Well, basically, when I had to step back, some of my activities was in 2013 when my first son, Kian, was born. I'm the kind of person that gives my all when I'm focused on something, and I dedicated myself to Kian and my two other children that came along after him. They're all very young, and so I had to step back from the kind of activity that I was doing before. Before that, I was all in and, every minute, every moment focusing on human rights. But as any mother knows, when you're breastfeeding around the clock and you're dropping your kid off at school and doing this and it leaves little time. Of course, as you just mentioned, I never stopped my activities. I just wasn't as public. I was not doing many interviews because, the timings just didn't work out. And
Right.
I was more focused on providing guidance from the outside, trying to link people together. And that's what I continue to try to do, is try to help unify people together so that we can be more effective in our activities.
Right. In this photo, I think it's a video. I see my grandchildren, your children, and Peter,
Yes.
and Peter, and yourself. Is a short video. If it is available, we can look at it.
Islamic Republic must go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Islamic Republic must go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Islamic Republic must go! Iranian make their choice! Hey, Canada, be our voice! Iranian make their choice! Hey, Canada, be our voice!
I saw that Kian was also singing, though his Farsi is maybe terrible, but
Yes,
he
it's so fun.
he was
Around my
singing.
house, every once in a while, you'll just hear them randomly say, Zan, Zendegi Azadi. And it's strange coming from their mouth because I don't
Yeah,
hear them speaking Persian.
yeah, that's right.
Yes, but it sparks a lot of questions. It's really interesting. Sometimes when you're speaking to other people, or if they overhear me having an interview, I don't realize how much they're absorbing, and they are. And when I was driving in the car, dropping one of my kids off to school, the song of Shervin Hajipur came on the air. Somebody was being interviewed. I think it was Karim Sajadpur, somebody. And my 4-year-old son said to me while the song was playing, Mom, they arrest somebody for singing? And it just stopped me in my tracks. I could not believe how much, my kids are learning from this. And unfortunately, they're learning about the injustices happening on. But my gosh, if they knew really what was happening to the children of Iran, they wouldn't be able to handle it.
Right. Well, it's interesting that how old is How old is he now? The youngest
Paladin's
one?
4. Paladin's 4.
Four.
And that's why I was able to start my activities again, Baba, because this was the first year he went to school. And so it allowed me some time to delve right back into this. And I am giving my all. I mean, unfortunately, my kids have noticed that mommy's not as present, but they know that this is extremely important. This is a crucial time for all Iranians and non-Iranians to take part. This is a historical moment. This is our chance. This is the beginning of the end of the regime. And the sooner we can get our act together and bring some kind of unity, I think less lives will have to be spared.
Right. In one of the interviews you had recently, including that National Post, you said that the revolution started in 2020. And what is your fear? What you are frightened about this? If you can say.
What I'm most frightened, really, what I'm most frightened about right now is that edict that was passed in Parliament. I believe, was it 227 parliamentarians out of 290? You might know the figures better, but voted to pressure the judiciary to give death sentences to those that are arrested in these protests. I mean, this is calling for genocide. This is absolutely frightening. The international community has to take urgent action to make sure that they spare the lives of the 14,000 people that have been arrested. I mean, I don't know what to feel, because it's just so overwhelming, and to try to figure out what's the next step. I mean, I know what I'd like to see the next step for G7 countries is to expel their Iranian ambassadors and to recall their diplomats. I want them to take real action, and I've started to see some action from them, or some stronger language, at least in Parliament, where they are pressuring their own governmental leaders to do something. And I'm hoping they're going to pressure the United Nations to finally start an investigative mechanism to document the human rights abuses and crimes against humanity and take forceful action, just as they had on South Africa when there was racial apartheid. They have to do the same for the gender apartheid that exists in Iran, the religious apartheid that exists in Iran, and just the brutality that innocent Iranians are facing daily.
Yeah, the number of 277. You know, they are chicken. They haven't given their names. That who are those 277, and those that they haven't. Seems that either they were sick or they were absent or whatever. And I wrote in one of my comments saying that if one person get killed or executed because of that edict, Iranian people, they would not forget and forgive those people that they have voted. So I'm repeating it here to them. And I send it to through other media that I'm not saying that they are listening to me, but they were I don't know what came to their mind to give this sort of order to judiciary to go after these people. Now,
I mean, in any regular system, there's a clear separation between judiciary and the executive powers. So, I mean, that in itself should give an indication to these Western countries the way the regime operates, that this is an illegitimate government that does not represent the voices of the people, and that that it is a a brutal theocratic dictatorship where all of the power comes from the supreme leader down.
Right. Yeah. You talked about the international response. This Monday, European Union, they're going to have the resolution. And in that resolution, from what we hear, it seems that they're going to have a good, severe sort of sanctions, and plus other punitive things coming along. So what else do you think that international community should do, aside from expelling the ambassadors and stuff like that?
I think they need to apply Magnitsky Act, which puts asset freezes and travel bans on regime officials and their families. There has to be some kind of mechanism to document the money that has been stolen by these kleptocrats and been brought to Western nations as a haven for their dirty money. This laundered money needs to be collected, needs to be seized and redistributed back to the victims of this regime. We need to continue to, just more of a symbolic role. I've been asking with a group of coalition of Iranian women and world leaders to take Iran off the Commission for the Status of Women. There's different groups doing a lot of wonderful things in the community, and I'm trying to support their activities, whether it's doctors that are uniting to try to give medical advice to Iranians. And of course, the international community and Western leaders can help fund some of these projects. They can help fund technological and communication software to bring to Iran to help them disseminate the news that's happening on the inside of Iran. And there's a lot of different ways governments can help. But the first thing that they have to do is recognize that this regime is illegitimate, and that they start to speak to alternative voices, that they don't have one foot in each camp. I think they're kind of gambling. They don't know if this regime survives, they'll have to negotiate with them. But if it collapses, they have to look like they're on the side of the people. But they can't have both ways. They have to choose whether they stand on the right side of history with freedom-loving Iranians, or whether they've chosen to have blood on their own hands by allowing the brutality to continue in Iran, with more than 300 deaths, including over 40 children who've been indiscriminately killed in this uprising.
Right. We have, I believe we have a few photos and a couple of videos, I believe, if we can look at those and you comment on them. Yeah, this is what is explained to our viewers. What is this?
This is, I'm getting an honorary Doctor of Laws. And of course, I use my platform to speak again about the human rights abuses taking place in Iran and the power of the individual to actually make a difference.
Right. Yeah, I remember we were there, Peter and I, we were there, and I was so proud of you that you were up there receiving the citation there. It's the joy. Okay, this one, I believe this is in Rome, and
Francis.
this is
Yes, this is in the Vatican. This is Pope Francis, and he was holding a conference on children, particularly children that are being trafficked and abused. And again, I took the opportunity to talk about child executions happening in Iran. And of course, Catholics are against the death penalty. So it was of great interest to him.
right. I don't know how long from the underneath of the screen. I don't know how long time we have, so I can allocate the timing. This one is okay. So we have 18
Masih
minutes.
Ali Najad, of course. Everybody knows
Yes.
Masih. This was probably
Right.
3 years ago, because by the picture I can see Kaladin's maybe a year old. And I was just there to support one of her talks. She has been such a strong figure in the Iranian diaspora, one of the strongest voices out there. Very passionate, and she's quite a woman, quite a leader.
Yeah, I see my photo over there too in the corner. Just
Yes, that's
I
you,
have
Baba.
changed so much.
You're always lurking in the corner.
Yeah. Okay. What was the other one? This one is.
This is Margaret Atwood. I'm on stage with her. We are at a PEN event, and I'm receiving on behalf of Nasrin Sotoudeh the PEN Canada Award. So I still
Right.
have that very close by to here. I'm holding it for the day when Nasrin Sotoudeh comes out of prison, and I can finally hug her and present that award to her. She is
Well,
my role model.
she is.
Nasrin Sotoudeh is my hero.
Oh yes, yes. She has done magnificent job, and unfortunately, she's either in prison or she is in house arrest. I'm not quite sure, and I hope with the collapse of the regime, all the political prisoners are freed. It's really shameful to see people with such a good heart working for children, and
Yes, the
they are
best
being
of the
locked up.
best are in that prison. And I mean, that's why what I've been calling for is that we need to expand our reach to other stakeholders. Already, the Iranian diaspora has come out in the millions. Now we need to expand our reach, and that includes bar associations that have lawyers to stand in solidarity with the lawyers that are being imprisoned just for defending the rights of their clients. Then we need to reach out to medical associations. Again, these poor protesters are afraid to go to hospitals to receive medical help because there's suppression forces waiting for them to arrest them and detain them. So a lot of them are dying because they're not getting proper medical attention. So we need to appeal to the medical community. We need to include all women's rights groups to stand in solidarity with Iranian women. We need to get LGBTQ organizations to stand in solidarity with the homosexuals in Iran who face death penalty just for loving the person that they love. And we need to appeal to animal activists and environmentalists. The list goes on. There's so many people that are affected in Iran that we can expand and reach out to and ask them to join us in our next rallies, ask them to sign our petitions, ask them to stand with us as we demand from our elected officials to take serious action on Iran.
Nazanin, you know, something bothered me very much is when these people, like let's say Narges Mohammadi, Nasrin Sotoudeh, they are in jail, plus 100 others. I see some negative things about them, and it breaks my heart when people see that these people are in jail and still they are trying to hammer them. I know some of the reasons. Do you want to elaborate on that
Well,
if you want?
I
I mean,
mean,
I don't
I
expect you
know
to.
some of the reasons too. I mean, I think some people have certain people in their minds as the next leader of Iran. And because Nasrin Sotoudeh's name was lifted up when she was imprisoned, a lot of the international community came to her help. Different, again, law organizations and universities stood in solidarity with her, and it lifted her name. And certain people were threatened by that, were threatened by this powerful female leader who has never shown any ambition to enter the political fray. But anytime anybody is threatened, there are attacks. But she should just ignore that and continue
Right.
with her good work.
Yeah, remind you that regime's agents are also, they do the same. They come out and they spread false or accusation and stuff like that. So we have to be very careful. These people are the jewel of our society, our country. So we have to deal with them the same way. Now we talk about Narges and Nasrin Sotoudeh. Let's talk about the opposition. What do you expect from opposition, Nazanin? This is a very heavy question, but I'd like to get your opinion. I know you are very outspoken, so I'd like to hear you.
Well, what I expect from the opposition might be different from what the reality is. I know for 40 years, the opposition has tried on numerous occasions to get together, to unify in some way. It hasn't been a very successful move, but you know what? I still have hope, because with the urgency that we're seeing inside Iran and just the number of deaths and the time period where there is this hope and of the real possibility of the downfall of this regime, I think more and more people are willing to come together right now. I'm hoping, at least. That's kind of what I've been focusing on in the past few weeks, is trying to see where the opposition has their niche role or their strengths. And I'm trying to formulate a map and see how we can unite together to be most effective. I mean, just to give you a very simple example, on one of the protest dates outside of Iran, in Toronto, I received 3 different posters from 3 different groups of protest rallies happening that same day. And I mean, that would have been such a waste of potential of a united group that would show the sheer numbers coming out in the streets. I mean, at the last hour, some of them conceded and merged, which was great. But I'm seeing more and more of this duplication. There's a group of doctors that have united East Coast, and then there's one on the West Coast, but they weren't aware of one another. So I'm trying to bridge some of those gaps that I see, or make some of those connections. And I think we could be really effective. There's some groups focusing entirely on, protests at FIFA World Cup. There's some that are focused on children and trying to target pressure UNICEF to take action, or the United Nations. I mean, there's so many different groups doing different things. And I think if we are able to bring them together in a sort of a coordinated organ, if people are too afraid of the word coalition, then I think we could be very effective. But it's imperative that we take this next step to form this support group or coalition, or whatever you want to call it, because political leaders on the outside of Iran are looking for that alternative voice. They don't know who to turn to. And to be frank, the MEK are organized, so they have the ears of the politicians. They're able to get meetings, and the politicians hear them out. And there was an article by an MP from Canada who put an article out in the paper saying that that's the way to go to support the MEK. And if the rest of the opposition want to have a say, they need to form this kind of alternative voice. Because in the end, we all want the same thing. We all want this regime to go, and we all want a free democratic Iran with free and fair elections. We can decide on those other, petty things afterwards. There could be a pluralistic system where, parties can compete just like in any Western country, and they can form government. But in the meantime, we have to work together to bring this regime down. And we have to focus on our common points.
Right. I don't know how many clips or the video we have, but I wanted to tell the viewers that we wrote as a title of you, as you are a writer. I have your book, of course. I don't know if yes, there it is. This is you have written this. How long ago was it, Nazanin?
This, when Nazanin Fatehi, the young girl who was sentenced to death after she stabbed one of the men who tried to rape her, and she was sentenced to death.
Right.
That was in 2005. I started campaigning in 2006. So I think that book was written years later. I can't remember the timeline. It maybe 2009.
No, I'm not trying to promote your book, but I just wanted to say that you have written a book, and also it has been translated, I think, to 2 or 3 or 4 languages. I don't know.
Yes, but Baba, this is shameless promotion. Let's stop talking about the book.
No,
Let's move on.
All right. What other? Thank you. What other clips we have that we can show? I have chosen for this session. If Janab Farzad, if you have it there, or if you don't.
First runner-up is Miss Canada.
We don't have that much time to go through that, because I want to play your someday the revolution music in which I have chosen only 2.5 minutes of that one. Do you want to say anything about this clip you just ran?
Well, I mean, I entered the Miss World competition to have a platform to speak on issues that were very close to my heart. I had worked with the Red Cross as a global youth educator for many years, and that prompted me to want to get this platform to speak on these issues. And I came first runner up there. It did help, and that's all I can say about that part of my life.
Okay, all right, good enough. This is a part of your speech in Halifax, I believe, and this one is a
wall of shame in New York.
Right. It's me that's behind you, standing over there. And
yes,
you did a. Go ahead.
Ahmadinejad was attending the UN that day, and we had a rally to speak against that.
Yeah, I remember we worked, you and I and a few others, we worked for about 5 days to make that platform and all of those things that we have done. And I'm very proud of you that you did that. I think we are getting to the end of the program. But before we end up, I want to play a portion of the revolution song that call it Someday. People, they can look it up in YouTube or Google or whatever, because you have other songs too they can listen to. I think you have a 12 song, or if I'm not making a mistake. But I like to. Okay, hold on. I want to look at I want to hear the portion of the Someday, and then. I get goosebumps when we saw that Orange Revolution, and we saw that Berlin Wall is falling, and and you said very nicely, someday is now, and you also showed we showed the Gandhi there. Do you want to say a few words on this one?
Well, I created that song and video about 15 years ago. I had the belief then in the Iranian people to have their moment. I showed clips of the colored revolutions that exist that ended up in success, them using peaceful resistance, civil acts of disobedience to bring down their regimes. And I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to happen just because I knew the level of anger, frustration of Iranian people for their regime. And I knew it would come. I didn't know it would come now, but I really believe in my heart that someday is now.
Right. Well, we are out of time. I love you and thank you for coming in the show. And I hope in the very near future, when things are changing for good, I'd love to have you again here and talk to our viewers. Thanks very much again, and I love you, Nazanin.
I love you, Baba, and thanks for holding the torch for those years that I had to take care of my children, and you really worked hard. So I love you, and this is such shameless promotion that people are going to misread, and it's strange.
That's
This
okay.
whole interview.
That's okay. I
but
think
thank
people got to know you because you have done such a thing that I think it's deserved that people to get to know you. I think this is a responsibility of anyone to promote people. Doesn't matter it's you, Nasrin Sotoudeh, or whoever. They should get to know people that they have worked hard on this for this cause. Thanks again, and talk to you later.
زن زندگی آزادی.
That's very good. Thank you.